Hello, and welcome back to Crimax. This week's case, we're going to be discussing another food-related murder. I'm going to turn it over to my beautiful orange firehead over here to give a little bit more details before we get into the fun fact.
Okay, thank you. So today we're going to talk about the McDonald's Massacre. We already covered the Austin yogurt shop murders, and now we're going to do one with the McDonald's, which a lot of people haven't covered this case, and it's not really talked about, so I figured we would go ahead and talk about it today. So what's our fun fact before we get into it?
So I've decided to keep with the edible theme.
Okay.
Here and to deal with death as well.
Is it drugs? Oh.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Just 3 days after dying, the enzymes that help break down a person's food begin to eat the person's body. Because the body just has no defense mechanisms to really keep your stomach acids and the bacteria in your intestines in check and keep them where they should be, they start to spread throughout the body. So
well, that makes sense to me. Everything else is breaking down too. It's just kind of gross.
The things that we use to break our food down to give us life eat us when we die.
Well, at least they're still doing their job. They're not lazy. They're out here doing what's needed.
I know,
Right?
All right, let's get into the story. This one might be a long one.
We'll see. I mean, we might just fly through it. We might not. It just depends on your feelings throughout.
Well, it's McDonald's, and I haven't eaten McDonald's in like 8 years. So
I think I've eaten it like twice, maybe in the last like 2 or 3 years. Only because it's open 24 hours, and I appreciate that.
The last time I ate McDonald's actually was when they introduced the mocha frappes when they first came out with them.
That was like when we were in high school.
And those were that was when I just got off of active duty. So
they've had frappes for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just never got them.
Yeah, they had it when we were in high school.
I don't need McDonald's.
I mean, I kind of want to. They have spicy chicken nuggets now. That sounds kind of good to me. But like, I don't really know.
Let's go to Wendy's.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into it.
All right.
All right, so today's case takes place in Ysidro, I might say that wrong, San Diego, in California. Another California crime for you, darling. I know you don't like those, or Texas crimes, but it is what it is. It happens a lot. They're big states. They have a lot of crimes. So this took place on July 18th, 1984, so it was 36 years ago. There were 22 deaths and 19 injured with a total of 41 victims. The perpetrator was James Huberty, who was 41 at the time, and at the time, this was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history. So the victims for this crime also varied in ages between 8 months and 74 years old. So there's a baby dead at the end of the story. Seems intense. Like, okay, massacre is one thing, right? But to kill a baby?
Welcome to America.
I don't know, man. I feel like they're innocent. It's a bit much. I mean, I guess killing anyone is bad, right? We're here because it's a terrible story. But like, I don't know, man, shooting a baby. So we're going to talk a little bit about the perpetrator of this crime because I feel like it's interesting to know what brought us to this event. And I found a little bit of research about James Huberty. So he was born in Canton, Ohio in 1942. And at the age of 3, he got polio, which left him with difficulties walking. Which, wasn't there a president who also got polio and couldn't walk anymore? And they tried to hide it from everyone, the public?
I think so.
Pretty sure. Like, I think it was polio, but he couldn't walk anymore and they were trying to hide it from the people.
I'm
so they
not
wouldn't
an
know.
American history buff.
They didn't want him to be seen as like weak and stuff. I don't remember which president it was, but he had difficulties walking after this. At around 10 years old, his father bought a farm in Pennsylvania's Amish country, but James's mother refused to live that kind of lifestyle and then left James there with his dad, and that caused James to have a lot of abandonment issues and made him kind of sullen and not really friendly to people. In 1962, James Huberty got a degree in sociology and then got a license for embalming. He met his wife, Etna, at the mortuary school, and then they had 2 daughters together. He worked as an undertaker before their house caught on fire mysteriously, and the family moved, and he got a new job as a welder. To me, undertaker to welder doesn't really seem like a smooth transition unless you're just trying to be like the manly man, you know? Because those 2 things don't go together very well. Taking people apart and then welding things together. So both James Huberty and his wife Edna had a history of violent behavior, from telling their daughters to assault people they didn't like, to James messing up Edna's jaw at one point and her calling the cops, and Edna also threatening another parent with a 9mm pistol after an altercation with one of her daughters. A motorcycle accident left James with a twitchy right arm and he lost his job 2 weeks before this incident, and that's the last thing we know about his personal life beforehand of like what happened to him before he did the McDonald's thing.
He lost his jaw?
Job.
Oh, job. Okay, I was about to say, what's he doing at McDonald's without a jaw?
So this crime took place on July 18th, 1984. On July 15th, 1984, James Huberty told his wife that he thought he had a mental problem, and 2 days after that, on the 17th, he called to make an appointment with a mental health clinic. The clinic took his number, and took his information and said he was going to call him back as soon as he had like a time for him to come in and take this appointment. So he waited by the telephone for hours, finally gave up and just took a motorcycle ride, came back home and acted fine. But he waited by the phone for hours for like a call back from this clinic, and they never gave him a call. Now, because he had a very calm demeanor and he didn't really seem stressed, he never had any incidents with mental health before, they did not take this as a priority case. They had 48 hours to call him back, but he thought he was going to call the same day, so maybe they should have made it a priority.
Yeah, but how are you going to know that?
You're not going to know. But I mean, I guess from his calm demeanor and stuff, you're just like, okay, we have time to make this appointment. But if you say you're going to call somebody back, I guess call him back.
Oh, no, yeah.
On July 18th, 1984, the day of the crime, the Huberty family goes to the zoo. He told his wife that he thought he was basically done with life, his life was over, and he blamed the clinic for not calling him back, saying that society had their chance. The family ate lunch at McDonald's and then they went home. After they got home, his wife was laying on the bed. He kissed his wife goodbye, and then when his wife asked where he was going, he said he's going hunting for humans. He got his supplies, a couple guns, wrapped everything up in a blanket, and then told his family that he was never coming back. Edna did not report this weird behavior to the police. She had no reasoning behind the fact that she didn't call this in, that he's going hunting for humans, and he says he's never coming home. That seems something you should probably call someone about, but she did not.
Nope, she just rolled back over and went to bed.
She's like, oh, this guy again. But like, what do you think the daughters would be concerned if he's like, hey, I'm never coming back home? Wouldn't the daughters be concerned to be like, hey, mom, you should probably tell somebody about this?
I would.
You would call this in, right? If I was like, I'm never coming back home, taking some guns with me and be like, I'm hunting humans, it's concerning.
Yeah.
You should probably call somebody about that.
Oh, yeah.
A witness saw him with the two guns and called it into authorities when he saw him on his way to his car, but he gave him the wrong address, so the lead went nowhere. It didn't get called in properly, so the lead went nowhere because they gave the wrong address. He drove around looking for a target. First it was a supermarket, like a food market, then it was a post office, and then finally he landed on the McDonald's parking lot, which was only 900 feet away from his apartment.
Oh.
That's really close, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Super close.
Could do this and then go back home, go to bed.
I wish I lived 500. Well, not from a McDonald's, like a Chipotle. At 3:56 p.m., he walks into a McDonald's filled with 45 customers with a 9mm Uzi semi-automatic, Winchester shotgun 12 gauge, and a 9mm Browning HP, which I don't know what that is. Also a bag full of hundreds of rounds for each weapon. So basically he walked in there with a semi-automatic Uzi, a shotgun, and a handheld pistol, which good variety, I guess? I don't know, but he had hundreds of rounds of ammunition per weapon. So he walked in with all of his weapons, and he aimed his shotgun at John Arnold, a 16-year-old employee working at McDonald's. The assistant manager shouted at him to warn him that he was about to get shot, and then the gun malfunctions, so nothing went off when he pulled the trigger. James was checking his weapon. He shoots it into the ceiling and then aims his Uzi at a 22-year-old woman named Neva Kane and shot her beneath her left eye. She died a couple minutes later.
It's not even a kill shot either.
It is. She died.
Well, I'm saying, no, you're going to die, but it's not a fast one. It's going to take a few minutes, yeah.
So Neva Kane was the first person shot inside the McDonald's. After that, he puts his focus back on 16-year-old John Arnold, and he shot him in the chest and the arm. He yelled everybody on the ground, telling everyone inside that he has killed thousands of people in Vietnam and he's going to kill 1,000 more. Which is a lie because this man was never in the military, but he wants to claim that he's such big and bad that he's done all this. But, you know, these people love to hype themselves up so much. He was also insulting people inside, calling, like, Vietnamese stuff that I'm not going to repeat. And he was just being really racist and stuff inside. Also, fun fact, most of the people inside of the McDonald's were Hispanic. It was a very popular Hispanic neighborhood, I guess. So most of the people inside were Hispanic. I don't know if he had anything against them, but I mean, it's just close to where he lives, so I think it was a coincidence. So after he killed the woman, Neva Kane, and then the 16-year-old John Arnold, the employee, he turned his attention to everyone else in the store he had told to get down. 25-year-old Victor Rivera tried to talk Huberty down from shooting anyone else, was like, we can work this out, no one else has to die, blah, 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 what do you want? And then James Huberty proceeded to shoot him 14 times. He would shoot him, and then when Victor Rivera would cry from pain, he would shoot him again, tell him to shut up, and then he would cry from pain, and he would shoot him again and tell him to shut up, and it just went on, and he shot him 14 times in total for trying to help everybody and get them all out. After he shot Victor Rivera, he spotted a group of women and children hiding together. Most people, like the employees and stuff, were hiding behind tables or behind the front counter, but there was a group in the middle of women and children huddled together, hoping to, like, protect each other. Then he started shooting them. 9-year-old Claudia Perez was shot in the stomach, the cheek, the thigh, the hip, the chest, the back, the armpit, and the head. A 9-year-old. That was the first one to die out of the group of women and children. He shot everyone else in that group, including 18-year-old pregnant Jackie Reyes 48 times. So he shot a pregnant chick, 18-year-old, 48 times, and then proceeded to shoot her 8-month-old baby in the center of the back. He continually shot families and employees in the restaurant. Again, a total of 41 people were injured, with only one person being shot that day that actually survived till the next morning and died. So out of everyone who died, everyone died on the scene except for one of them. Now, of course, I could go into detail about every person who died, and they do deserve their stories told, but if I go into the details of 22 different deaths, it's going to be a lot to take in for a lot of people. So I'm going to simplify it and tell you, like, 48 bullets on a pregnant woman, a baby shot, things like that. Things that are like, I hate to say highlights because it sounds really bad, but things that are predominant and show like his horrific side, I guess. So the first calls in 911 were right after 4 p.m., but the dispatcher sent the officers to the wrong McDonald's 2 miles down the road. Isn't it weird to have a McDonald's 2 miles away from another McDonald's?
Man, they do that all the time.
It's usually a grocery store right next to another grocery store.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I've seen it to where there's been a Wendy's on across from each other on a intersection.
It's weird.
I know.
But they send them to the wrong McDonald's. Like, people died because you made that mistake, you know? So this caused a response delay to the scene of the actual crime. Before the police got to the correct address of the restaurant, Lydia Flores went to the drive-thru window to pick up food, and she heard the gunfire. She saw the broken glass, and then backed up her car, hit a fence, and then got out to hide in some bushes with her 2-year-old daughter. So people did not know that this was a crime scene at the time. The place had not been locked up. There were people walking by on the sidewalk that had no idea what was going on. People kept coming into the restaurant during this because it took 77 minutes for this to be over, and they just kept coming in and being shot at. Kids would walk up on bikes and try to get some sundaes, and then they would be shot dead on the sidewalk outside of the building. So, like, nobody was safe. You come near the building that wasn't in lockdown before the police arrived, and you were going to get shot. At 4:05 p.m., a couple and their 4-month-old daughter goes into the building, thought it was under construction, seeing all the glass and shattered and everything. They thought it was under construction. They saw James Huberty, thought he was a repairman, which is a weird thing to assume, but you never assume something's getting shot up, I guess. And they proceeded to shoot the family. The wife, Marcella, is now permanently blind in one eye and can't use one of her hands, but all 3 family members of that family survived. However, a bunch of kids who were trying to get sundaes did not survive. There were a lot of kids, actually. I mean, I feel like McDonald's is a place for families with young children to go, so it makes sense.
Especially if it's apartment complex. It's all you're gonna get.
Well, it's an apartment complex nearby.
That's what I'm saying. It's all you're really gonna get her.
There's also a college nearby, so I feel like that's what young people eat. The police arrived to the scene 10 minutes after the first 911 call, and Huberty started shooting at the patrol cars. They realized this was a way bigger deal than they initially thought from the first 911 calls, and the San Diego Police Department put a 6-block lockdown perimeter around the scene, around the restaurant, and about 2 blocks away from the restaurant was like their headquarters to try to figure out how to handle the situation. There were a total of 175 officers set up around different locations, and the SWAT team came in within an hour. So this lasted 77 minutes, which is well over an hour. Then you add in the 10 minutes for the cops to get there. It's a pretty good response time for a SWAT team to show up. They had a hard time at first figuring out how to approach the buildings because a restaurant is full of a lot of windows, and all the windows were kind of shot out from all the gunfire, so they had no way to like approach the building without being seen. They didn't know how many people were inside as far as victims. They didn't know if there was hostage situation inside because they had not talked to the perpetrator of this crime yet. And also the glass from the windows kept reflecting things. So if there were shards in the windows and they shot through it, it might reflect it. They didn't know how that was going to be handled. At 5:05 p.m., 77 minutes after this originally had started, SWAT team member Chuck Foster perched on the roof and got a clear shot on Huberty, who died instantly. So that's the end of the crime. I have some fun facts about it, of course, but what are your thoughts so far? Because you haven't really said anything this entire episode.
It kind of makes me mad. I mean, I don't like when you know, children and babies and all of that. Like, I can understand some adults that I don't like, and you know, I can almost understand it, but
everyone has strong feelings about somebody.
Yeah, no, that just pisses me off.
Like a baby.
Yeah.
And like a 9-year-old getting shot in every part of her body.
Yeah.
Shooting kids coming in for Sundays. Shooting a pregnant woman with her baby is fucking crazy. I mean, they shot her 48 times, and she's 18. I know he said society had his chance, but what the fuck, man? Like, if you really had a mental health crisis and you wanted this clinic to call you back, go to the clinic yourself. Walk yourself over there.
Yeah.
Don't go to McDonald's and shoot it up. And he also had McDonald's for lunch that day after the zoo. So, what would you think as far as approaching the building? To me, I understood that there was broken windows and everything, but I feel like it shouldn't have been that hard to get into, I guess.
No. Back, trying to think of the technology they had back then, I mean, the best they could have did was Form a barricade.
I mean, they had shields and barricades. They could have
what I'm
worked their
saying.
way in,
That's
for
what I'm saying.
sure.
Form a barricade slowly until they got line of sight and just, yeah.
Yeah, I understood they didn't know if there was hostages. They didn't know how many people were
Yeah,
inside.
see, that's honestly, they probably actually did handle it the best way because you don't know how many hostages and stuff like that. There's really no point for a barricade because that's for like just all else fails. You're going in guns blazing, and you need to get close enough to do that. Barricade, but other than that, sniper probably been the only way.
The issue I have is they didn't have a clear shot of the entire building, and how would they know if there's more than one perpetrator of this crime? No one in there is calling. They don't have cell phones. They're not calling in to tell them there's only one dude inside. So
Yeah.
there could be two people in there.
Still though, at that kind of
But tell me,
with it happening that fast, you got to do something.
no, I totally get
yeah.
it. I'm pretty sure they handled this the best way.
I
they
mean,
could.
whether they wait to find out how many perpetrators there are, I mean, the dude's already going ballistic. They need to end it now. And if they find that there's somebody else, then the same way they need to end it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so there was 45 people inside of the building. He shot over 257 rounds. It was only the dude who shot him, Chuck Foster, was only 27. So I feel like that must have really propped up his career at a young age. But I don't see any reasoning for this at all. If he said he was having a mental health crisis, if he thought it was serious, tell the clinic it's serious, or go to the
Well,
clinic.
I mean, it also probably all started. I mean, look at his family. His he pretty much did what he said he was gonna do. He doesn't seem like the type of person that's like me, where I say stuff and
Don't mean it.
yeah, exactly, and nothing.
No, I mean, he literally told his wife he was gonna go kill people, took his guns with him, told him he was never coming home, and what did she do? Probably take a nap. His kids knew, didn't call anybody. It's not the kid's fault. It's not the kid's point to do it, but still, why didn't his wife call? I feel like she should be held accountable for some reason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So a couple of facts about the case is that the local funeral homes were so overwhelmed by the number of victims in this small town that the wakes were held at the San Ysidro, I might say that wrong, Civic Center. And also the Mount Carmel Church had to have funeral masses back to back. So they would have one person's funeral mass, put the next one in. They had to do them back to back to back to try to like bury everybody around the same time. And that was a lot for their small town. The building, the restaurant, the McDonald's was torn down on September 26, 1984. And an expansion of the Southwestern Community College was built on the scene, and there's like a little thing outside with 21 hexagonal granite pillars outside to remember the 21 people that died.
So they built a college on it?
They built like an educational center building on it. It was an expansion of a college that was already nearby. So they just, like, McDonald's donated the land to the city, and they just took it and expanded the college on it. But if you look at the memorial for the McDonald's thing, it doesn't look like a memorial. It just looks like a piece of art worth a bunch of hexagons, I guess. But that's what they did outside for the memorial kind of deal. Edna Huberty, the wife, who I thought should have called the fucking cops, but she fucking didn't, sued McDonald's and one of James Huberty's former employees for $7.88 million in 1986. She claimed that him working around poisonous materials at his old job, being a welder, like, messed with his brain. And then she also said the high levels of glutamate in the food caused this rage.
Oh my god.
So she blamed McDonald's high glutamate content for the reason that he had an outrageous rage.
Oh my god.
Now, the poisonous gas is messing your brain. Sure, you might have a case there.
Sure, but I mean,
suing
come on,
McDonald's?
what did you do about it? You did nothing. The dude literally basically cried for help and you did nothing. And now you just want free money.
Maybe he announced it to you when he was leaving home so that you would call somebody and he wouldn't have to do this, I guess. But, like, for her to have the nerve to sue McDonald's
Oh yeah.
after they're already going through this hell,
Yeah, no.
this PR fucking disaster.
Shut up and sit down, Karen.
The high levels of glutamate in this food gave him an uncontrollable rage because he had it for lunch that day. Etna, go fuck yourself. Also, many of the victims inside the restaurant, because it did take 77 minutes, they said that, like, there's a controversy. Like, the official reports say that they were all shot, like, a couple minutes within him going in there, and, like, survivors of this said that, like, he waited to shoot a lot of people to, like, 40 minutes in. He was kind of just having fun with everybody and shooting some people slowly. But a lot of the victims tried to stop themselves and others around them, people nearby them, from bleeding out by stuffing napkins into their wounds to, like, stop the bleeding. That's smart. It's very smart. Now, I think tearing a piece of your clothing off and stuff, like rag, would be a better solution as far as you bleeding out, but that's better than nothing. Stopping yourself from bleeding out and people around you with napkins is smart.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like napkins back in the day were more sturdy than now.
Well, everything was about quality, not quantity back then.
Well, now they stuff 1,000 napkins in your bag and
Yeah, and once they start to barely get wet, they deteriorate.
yeah. So I feel like maybe back in
Like playing
1984.
beat the clock.
Yeah, 1984, maybe they had better napkins. I don't know why I'm debating napkin quality these days. Anyways, I don't really have anything else for today's case other than this guy's a fucking dirtbag. And, like, if he wanted to cry for help, he could have went to the clinic. He could have, actually asked the clinic that he called for like a call back immediately, like he really needs help. He could have said it's an emergency. He could have gone to the hospital and checked himself for a psych stay. Get yourself committed.
Yeah.
There's so many other options. This is literally not an option. Why was that an option? Shooting a McDonald's is not an option.
Yes.
Also innocent. There's babies in there. But anyways, I don't really have anything else for today's case. I know it's the shorter one. I thought it was going to be a longer story, but you haven't really had any input for me. But honestly, I feel like this would not have lasted 77 minutes if someone already had a gun in there to end this sooner.
Oh, yeah.
You know, California has really strict gun laws, but I feel like if someone had a gun already, this shit would have not gone on so long.
No, not at all.
If this was Texas, this would not have lasted
Oh, no.
so
Yeah,
long.
definitely. That's why you can sell carry and open carry, which is why I'll never want to visit New York City and blah, 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 because the only people that are allowed to carry are the bad guys and this and the police.
Yeah.
I really don't.
It seems dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, people are always scared of guns, and I totally get it. Bad things can happen, but like if you have someone with a good gun, then you're safe. But anyways, thank you, honey, for joining me for today's case. I'm sorry it was a little bit of a shorter one, but like honestly, dude was fucking crazy, and all these poor people died for no reason. Like there was no reason for this.
Thank you.
Bye.